to see with that, Georgia.
Thanks very much, Mark. This is African News. The general behind the coup that kick-started Mali's year of turbulence is arrested and charged with kidnapping. General Sanogo has been accused of having targeted soldiers opposed to his takeover last year. Also, work continues in Democratic Republic of Congo to demobilise rebel fighters who surrendered just a few weeks ago. And Kenyan lawmakers aren't taking lightly the UK's decision to ban the mild narcotic Khat. Delegations headed over to Britain to warn that too many African farmers rely on the cash crop for it to be banned. First up, the general behind the coup that started Mali's slide into over a year of violence and instability has been arrested. General Amadou Sanogo has been formally charged with kidnapping. The families of soldiers who didn't back his overthrow in 2012 of the government accuse him of having rounded up his opponents before torturing and killing them. Well, Sanogo remained influential even as the country began rebuilding its democracy. Our correspondent Nicolas Romain tells us more.
We are here in the camp of the Red Berets in Bamako. As you remember, during the coup, there was an opposition between the Green Berets of Sanogo and the Red Berets, who were loyal to the former president, ATT. On the 30th of April, there was a counter-coup, and 20 Red Berets disappeared. We spoke to one of the mothers of these Red Berets and asked her what she felt on this day of the arrest of Sanogo.
La joie. Je ressens vraiment la joie.
I feel so happy. If our sons are still alive, bring them here. Otherwise, who killed them? Where and why? We want to know. If they were murdered, where are they buried?
Like this lady, many Malians were waiting for the arrest of Sanogo. In recent weeks, he'd refused several times to answer the judge's questions. For the Malian authorities, they hope that after this arrest of Sanogo, it will mean a return to more stability within the Malian army.
Nicolas Romain there in Bamako for us. Well, just yesterday, France 24 spoke to the Malian defence minister, who insisted that the government did not see Sanogo as a problem. This despite growing resentment amongst some Malians that Sanogo seems to have landed on his feet whilst facing some serious human rights abuse allegations. Well, Corinne Dufka is the senior West African researcher from Human Rights Watch. She tells us authorities are making a point that no one is above the rule of law.
It really could also be a demonstration of the independence of the judiciary as well. There have been, of course, the judge and a number of gendarmes and judicial personnel working on this case for well over a year. And we know that they had asked previously during the transitional government for Sanogo and others to come and declare what they know, and they didn't receive the support that they wanted from the Ministry of Defense. This is really an extremely meaningful development, not only for the victims and their families, but also for all of Mali. You know, Mali has been characterized for many, many years by a culture of impunity where the big man and powerful really felt untouchable and above the law. So this development today is very important, and it shows that demonstrates a dent in that previous situation.
So we're looking at a dent. Do you think that might grow? We might see a wider fight back against that culture of impunity that you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to remember the role that the crumbling rule of law and impunity played in Mali's spectacular collapse that has led to almost 2 years of instability. And it's terribly important that the rule of law be reestablished. But what's also important is that the victims of Sanogo and his troops are not the only victims from recent abuses. Very importantly, for the stability and rule of law to take hold in Mali, and indeed for there to be true reconciliation and development, the perpetrators of all different sides during the recent armed conflict, and indeed of economic crimes, notably corruption, have to be held to account. So we're hoping that this is just a first of many cases that the judiciary can begin to investigate, and that perpetrators will be held accountable for all of these crimes.
Karine Dufka there from Human Rights Watch. Well, staying in Mali, not long ago, election officials announced that the country is officially heading into a second round for parliamentary elections that are needed to return the nation to fully constitutional rule. A follow-up poll is scheduled for December 15th, as no party secured a first-round absolute majority in Sunday's initial vote. Ministers have also expressed disappointment that turnout only reached 38.4%. Look now, though, at some news in brief. 3 soldiers have been fatally shot in Libya's eastern city of Benghazi, and the bodies of 2 others found in a nearby town. The violence comes amidst a 3-day strike in Benghazi in protest against the militia that continue to operate independently of either the police or the military. Unrest has continued since the end of the 2011 revolution. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Ali Zidane warned that the impact on oil imports could mean the government won't be able to pay public salaries. An Egyptian court in Alexandria handed down prison terms of up to 11 years behind bars to a group of 21 female supporters of the Islamist Muslim Brotherhood and ousted President Mohamed Morsi. They were all charged with inciting violence. Meanwhile, in Cairo, protests were held by Egyptians opposed to a new law requiring demonstrators to get permission before holding street rallies. Many accused the military-backed government of taking an increasingly hardline approach to dissent. And in Nigeria, President Goodluck Jonathan's party has taken a blow with the defection of 5 key governors to the opposition. Some of the dissidents leaving the People's Democratic Party controls some of Nigeria's largest voting blocs, which weakens the PDP ahead of elections in 2015. Now, it's governed since 1999 and has come in for increasing criticism over its tackling of the country's biggest challenges. Now, 3 weeks after armed forces chased rebel group the M23 out of Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, and their hopes that fighters from other militia will soon all be demobilised. So far, about 2,000 have surrendered, but there's still a long way to go, as our correspondents found out.
Every day, dozens of ex-rebels land here. Today, it's the Mai Mai checker. The inspection is quick, but necessary. The names and the ages are registered, an important detail.
There are children among them. We need to know roughly how old and how many they are.
The children will be taken to a specific center, but the adults land in this open-air camp in the middle of a village. Since the defeat of the M23 rebellion, several local militias have decided to surrender. Abdullah's group has helped the Congolese army. He's expecting a reward.
We surrendered our weapons because we faced an aggressive enemy.
What enemy?
The M23. We handed in our weapons to join the Congolese army.
Jean is the boss of another militia. He surrendered with 100 men. 2 weeks later, he's slightly disillusioned.
It's a problem for us to be living in these barracks. The living conditions are not great. We don't sleep well. We don't eat properly.
1 meal every 24 hours. Just after the interview, a Congolese soldier, not happy to hear that, tries to silence the critics.
They get a meal every day at the center. We treat them well.
Well treated? Not really, according to many ex-rebels. The Congolese authorities still didn't come out with a clear plan about what should happen with all of them. Military parades, the exercises fill up part of the days, but these men are all waiting to be integrated for real.
Now, Kenyan MPs have headed out to the UK to lobby the government there not to ban the herbal stimulant Khat. Now, it's a mild narcotic that's grown and exported by many Kenyan farmers. Earlier this year, the UK decided to treat Khat as a Class C drug. Kenyan lawmakers say the move will condemn those who rely on it as a means of income. Our France 24's Duncan Woodside's in Nairobi. He tells us more about the government's battle for Khat.
The Kenyan government is very keen to press this issue with the British authorities, and not just the Kenyan government, but also traders and growers as well. That in a context where the Khat trade is pretty important to the Kenyan economy, particularly the north of the country. It's estimated that the exports of Khat to Britain bring in somewhere around $25 million a year in foreign exchange earnings And there are tens of thousands of people who are directly dependent on the trade. That includes not just the traders, but also growers, transporters, and pickers. So there is this crescendo building now in terms of the lobbying efforts to persuade the British government to change its position. And that's mainly been focusing on lawmakers travelling to the UK to lobby the Parliamentary Select Committee in the UK, which is considering this issue. There's also a petition being lodged in the High Court in London contesting the ban.
Now, Duncan, they are taking the argument to the UK, but is it likely to make any kind of difference?
Well, I spoke to a grower earlier on this evening, and he expressed his confidence that the Kenyan authorities' efforts and the lawmakers' efforts within the UK would yield fruit. But at the same time, Theresa May, the British Home Secretary, has been very keen to push this issue forwards, and the British government considers the trade to be harmful in terms of smuggling routes already existing from Britain into Northern Europe, where it's already banned, and also potentially feeding into terror funding networks. There is, of course, a counter-argument to that, and that is the fact that once you ban the trade, then potentially criminal networks, terror networks, increase their exploitation of the trade.
Duncan Woodside there for us. Well, that does, though, wrap up Africa News for me. I will be back with more tomorrow.
Georgia, thank you very much indeed. Georgia Carver-Stewart with African News. Good to see you.
Mark.
We're taking a short break. After that, it's more world news, of course, plus we've got sport and our special feature, the Tour of the Maghreb. Stay with us.
I was going to say...